If there is anything you wish to ask or you wish to share, please feel free to, because there is no agenda for this life other than to just be in each other's presence. Sometimes just being is enough. There is a question, it says, why is it that some people realize the truth and some cannot in spite of their seeking? Because that is the will of God. For some people, it just takes very long. But despite the fact that people can realize the truth, it is not that they are free of their conditioning. Even people who have woken up struggle in their daily living. They struggle in their relationships, in their finances. It's not that life is easy for them. Life definitely becomes simple because there's not much for them to cling on to, but it's never easy. Another question is, is it that some people is gay and some people is lesbian? It is also God's will. It is also God's will. It is the cosmic law. It is not that people choose to be a certain way, that people choose to have a certain sexual orientation or preference. It is just that their life is shaped in a way and they don't have any control over it. So it is beyond our small infinite mind to understand why people are the way they are. All we can do is accept ourselves for the way we are and accept others for the way they are, and that makes life simple. Not easy, but simple. Sarthak says, why do people ask question to answers they already have? Nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Sarthak. Yes, they know the answers. The secret is that they know the answers to the most of these questions. But it is the insatiable mind. That is how the mind propagates itself. That is the duality, that is the game. So mind wants entanglement. Mind wants not engagement. Engagement is a part of mind too, but mind enjoys entanglement. And entanglement means involvement. So when people ask questions, it is also important to see what is their motivation behind asking the question. It is generally that the questions come from the assumption of a separate self. That's the whole trouble. If we simply pay attention to this sense of separation, a lot of questions will actually dissolve. In meditation, people experience resolution of these questions because they also experience resolution of the separate self. But it is temporary, it comes back. However, awakening is the recognition of the substratum. That is the space where the I arises. When that is known, then there is a shift, then there is a change. Even then, people can ask questions, but the motivation changes totally. It is purely for engagement, not for involvement. So there is a difference between engagement and involvement. Engagement is based on work, curiosity, creativity, whereas involvement is completely tied up with outcome. We get involved when we are tied up with an outcome, when we want a certain outcome. So, involvement usually leads to pain and suffering, whereas engagement is something which the mind requires, because without engagement, life as we know will not be possible, or the pleasures or the enjoyment will not be possible without. And pleasure and enjoyment is an important aspect of daily living, it is not separate. Just as pain is unavoidable, so is pleasure also unavoidable. You are going to experience pleasure, you are going to experience pain. A couple of months back, I remember meeting 2 to 3 kids, children, and they were all French. And I did not know, I do not know French at all, but somehow those children were so, uh, they were so fascinated with me. I don't know for what reason, but they were so fascinated with me. They would just run up to me every time I would go for a walk in the park, and they would start speaking in French, and I probably couldn't understand anything, but I would try to make gestures and uh, try to say hello, hi, little bit of few French words I knew. I tried to communicate with them. But you see, our relationship was beautiful. I got to know their names, I got to know their parents, I spoke to their parents, and they spoke English, so it was easy to communicate with them. But the children were ecstatic to see me every time, and sometimes the boy, whose name is Firol, would actually run with me, play with me. Even his sister would play with me, and even without language, there was a lot of communication. There was a deep connection. Now, why does this kind of connection not happen in adults? Why does this kind of connection happen in children? For one reason is that adults are completely identified with concepts. I am this, I am that, this is my position, this is my stature. I should associate with this people, with these people, I should not associate with those people. Children don't have those concepts. Children do not have those concepts. Therefore, children are free. They are spontaneous. They are creative. They are curious. But unfortunately, we destroy all of that. And the way we destroy it is we transfer our concepts onto them, and we condition them. And then we say that the world is not a loving place. Okay, so there is a question: what is the cosmic joke? Well, brother, the cosmic joke is this. The cosmic joke is that the very tool you're trying to use to investigate reality does not exist. The instrument that you're trying to use to evaluate the joke, to understand the joke, is a joke itself. The ego that is trying to kill the ego, it's not going to happen. That's the cosmic joke. There is question, it feels hard to maintain innocence and humble. Nirmal Hriday. That is because we are completely burdened with concepts. We just absorb. It is, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is human conditioning. We just absorb everything that is told by religion, everything that is told by our parents, by our teachers. We do not question anything. So फिर निर्मल हृदय होगा कैसे? Like, how will the heart be innocent and humble? It will not be innocent and humble because we are simply borrowing information and trying to fit them into our template. As a culture, we are divided. We are divided in religion, we are divided in caste, we are divided in so many structures, classes. So when there is division, then there is conflict, there is separation. So how will the heart be subtle? For subtle heart, for innocence and humble heart, one has to really go deep within oneself and see that place from where everything originates. That means it requires courage to go beyond the traditional concepts and teachings and examining what is happening in our daily living. What is my relationship with my neighbor, with my child, with my family, with my brother, sister, friends, co-workers, and also what is my relationship with the objects that are around me, with my own thoughts. What is my relationship with that? It needs an examination. But we are so caught up in finding solution, we are so caught up in solving the problem that we forget to go within. Majority of us, are extroverted. When I say extroverted, what it means is we are trying to find a solution outside. So we will listen to gurus, we will listen to teachers, and nothing wrong with that. There is a lot of wisdom in all of that too. But at the same time, without examining what is happening in your life structure, there is no possibility of any peace. What is your relationship with your wife? What is your relationship with your children? Where is the source of disharmony and dysfunction that is happening within our families? We can point at things that are external. We can say that there is unrest in this particular area where people are fighting, communities are fighting, people from different backgrounds are fighting. But we do not see that there is a dysfunction within us. There is a division within us also. And what you see externally is a manifestation of what is happening within oneself. How to heal one's childhood wounds and traumas? Well, the thing is that if one believes that one is separate from the rest, then there will always be a fundamental conflict, a fundamental division, that I am separate from the rest. And then the journey will always be external, as in I will find different methodologies to treat myself because I believe that I'm separate. But if one questions that what are these wounds and what are these traumas, what is the origin of that? Now, in my experience, even if you get to know your childhood wounds, let's say through psychotherapy or through any other means, it is not necessary that all of those wounds and traumas will be resolved. So yes, some of it may definitely help, and I'm not against psychotherapy or psychology. So you can definitely, take help of that. But at the same time, there is a fundamental question which you will have to face at some point, and that is where is that thought that I am wounded coming from? What is the root of our fear? Unless and until we go there, there will be no possibility. And all the teachers, masters have done, whether it's Ramana Maharishi or it is Jiddu Krishnamurti, they have pointed us to the root of our fears. And they say that it is at that root that the peace, that the greatest peace of it all lies. And somehow we are told by the society that it is not okay to be angry, it is not okay to be upset or depressed. And the whole thing is based on avoidance. Avoid being depressed, avoid being angry, avoid being anxious. However, I see it as how my friend says it, pure love poetry. What you call as dysfunction, I call it pure love poetry. That means it is just one of the expressions of the source. Yes, it can be very hard to come to terms with it because sometimes there is violence, sometimes there is abuse. But even that is part of the unconditional love of the source. And if you see in your life, if these wounds and traumas and whatever you want to call it, if they did not happen, probably the seeking would also not have happened. And without seeking, probably you won't be here, or you won't be on this path to search for truth. So I believe there is nothing to be done to heal anything other than to question that what is it that we are trying to heal? To cure something, one needs to understand what exactly one is dealing with. And unfortunately, we do not, at least at this point of time, we do not have the technology or the resources to know what exactly are we dealing with. Because a lot of theories and science keeps changing. But what I follow is wisdom of the ancient masters. And they say, go to the root. Go to the root and sit by yourself and see what is your relationship with yourself. If you can just sit by yourself without anyone around and be comfortable with yourself. When I say sit by yourself, that means sit completely by yourself, not with phones or books or gadgets, just by yourself. A majority of people will be scared to sit by themselves. For some people, it's not even possible to last 4-5 minutes. And that happens because immediately the anxiousness comes up, the restlessness comes up, that I must do something. We are so immersed in doership he can't sit. And this is what Nisargadatta Maharaj said. Let me try to remember the exact words. That the place of pure love, which is here and now, the greatest Maya is that this is our true nature, but we cannot even sit here for a minute. Now, I'm not using his exact words, but something similar to this he said. He said that it is difficult to sit with oneself. Another question is how to make a right decision. For that, we must know what is right decision. And it is very difficult to know what is right and wrong because that keeps changing. What was right in ancient times is not acceptable today. What is acceptable in today's time may not be acceptable in the future. So there is no right or wrong decision. There is simply decision. Make the decision, go forward, and then see. Two possibilities may happen. Either the decision will be in your favor or it will not be in your favor. And the teachings tell us that you don't have any control over the outcome. So why worry about the right decision or the wrong decision? Just make decisions. Even if you fail, let's say even if you make the wrong decision, it will eventually lead you to the path of wholeness. But if you are caught up that I have to make a right decision right now, then probably you will find yourself stuck in a situation. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all allowed. Okay, another question. Why do people who say I am not the body neglect the body, and people who say I am the body get obsessed with the body? Okay, let me understand this. Why do people who say I am not the body neglect the body? Now, this can be different for different people. There are some people who say that I am not the body, but they do not neglect the body. But yes, there are also some people who say that I am the body, neglect the body. Now, for example, Ramana Maharishi. Now, he did say, I am not the body. And he did neglect his body to a certain extent because for a man of his understanding, the body consciousness was inconsequential. For him, it did not matter. And even when he was in pain, he would say that there is pain. He never said that I am in pain. And the next part of the question is people who say I am the body get obsessed with the body. Yes, that can also happen. Yes, that does happen. When you are identified with either the body or the mind, you can get caught up in that. That is the nature of mind. Ultimately, even the body is associated with the mind. And it all stems from the sense of separate self, because if you say that I am separate, then as a separate individual, I have a body, separate mind, then I will try to protect that individuality. So yes, these things do happen. Okay, another question is, what are your views on breathwork, pranayama or kriya yoga? I think it cleans the clouds of trauma to see the shining bright consciousness. Osho also gave method like dynamic meditation. You know, these are beautiful tools. Pranayama, kriya yoga, and meditation. These are wonderful tools, amazing tools. But at the same time, I always question as to who is doing all these things. Now, if these things are done with the sense that it is the separate entity, me, who is doing these things, then the sense of separateness remains. And till the separation remains, the suffering remains. So, yes, it does help a lot in trauma, but eventually, even after doing all of this, the trauma may not go away. It may still be recurring, it may still come up. And at some point, one may question, does the trauma have to completely go? Now, this may be a bit unpopular view, so please excuse me. We are fighting our traumas. In the modern world, we think that traumas are so bad that we have to fight them. Now, of course, if it is disrupting your life, right, if it is taking over your life, then by all means take whatever help is necessary. But you see, sometimes it is just a matter of time. Because from what I have read, there are certain traumas, there are certain mental disorders that, despite taking a lot of conventional treatment, they take years or perhaps decades to lower, to low and become low in intensity. And sometimes, despite doing everything, people do get reactive, do get emotionally charged up. So, in the end, it is not about solving and eradicating this entire thing, because life will continuously give you some trauma or the other. At, the more you resist the conditioning, the more you resist your anger, your outbursts, the violent it becomes, the stronger it becomes. So when it becomes clear that there is no separate entity that is experiencing the trauma, but trauma is simply happening, then the momentum to continue the suffering in horizontal time disappears. Reflect on this later on, and you will see that it has value. What I'm trying to say is, in the moment, you may feel intensity of a trauma. For example, I had a panic attack few years back, maybe 2 3 years back, and at that point I completely surrendered to it. Like, there was a complete surrender, because there was nothing possible for me to do at that point. Now, what happened? There was witnessing of that intensity as it subsided. And it happened for about half an hour, or maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. The peak intensity may have been around 5 6 minutes, 7 minutes. But the whole process was witnessed. And when the effects were over, and I had an emotional outburst and a lot of grieving, my only statement was, wow. It was wow. And I was like, I never saw it from this perspective. So after that, I never avoided anything, and I didn't get any panic attack after that. So the question is, why are our minds always occupied? Well, that's the nature of mind. Mind wants to remain occupied. Mind is a movement. Mind is thought bundle. So its nature is movement. And as we move around, there is constantly changing scenery. The objects of experience are constantly changing. So based on constantly changing objects, different associated thoughts appear in the mind. That is the nature of mind. It is simply doing what it is designed to do. So the question is, are you enlightened? No, 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 not at all. Not at all. I am not enlightened, and neither am I interested in enlightenment. In fact, I am quite messed up. People who are close to me will tell you how messed up I am. I can be a very unpredictable human being. And what's your stories and what path do you follow? Which guru, which yoga? Please tell everything. I'm in my way and I'm a seeker. Now, when I talk about non duality, as I think you may be familiar, I do not follow any particular path. I do not have any particular guru, although there are many teachers who I seek inspiration from, and there are many teachers who I revere, and some of them are like my brothers, and I learn from them. And I do not follow any particular path as such. So at this point, I have opened myself to experiencing life and simply learning direct lessons from life. And sometimes they are hard. They're brutal, but it's fine. That is the best learning for me. Who experience self, mind or the self? Self is self luminous. Self is pure experiencing itself. So it is neither the mind nor the self that objectifies itself or experiences itself. Self is made up of pure knowing, just like a ray of light in the sun is self luminous. Although it illuminates other things, the ray of the sun illuminates all the objects in the room. It does not need anything to illuminate itself because its nature is light. Similar to that is the self. And when the self is known, there is not much concern with knowing anything else. Life becomes simplified, but not easy. What are your view on Nad Yoga? I have experienced Anhad Nad, sound of existence. So, now this is a sound, Anhad Nad. Anhad means unstuck sound. Usually, sound is produced by a mechanical action of two objects colliding. But Anhad Nad is the unstuck sound, which can also be translated as the vibration of the being. And I would hear this sound since my childhood, and I could not make any sense of it. And as my mind was more and more settled, I could hear it louder and louder. I could hear it growing louder. And I was not hearing it in my ears. Anhad Nad is not something that you hear around your ears. It is the sound of your vibration, and you can sort of, if you are quiet enough, if you are silent enough, you will notice that it is emanating from your nervous system or from some external source. And some people confuse it with tinnitus. Now, I had tinnitus in one of my ears, which got very mild. It's still there, but it's very mild now. So I know the difference, and it is not tinnitus. But yes, if one wants, one can meditate on that, on the nad, on that frequency. It is actually very calming. But there are no techniques as such. It's just that be with that sound and one can simply be at rest. But again, these are all experiences. We are still caught up in the experiences, whether it is yoga or it is meditation. The true meditation happens when we go beyond experiencing. In other words, when there is pure experiencing but no experiencer, no meditator. That is when true meditation happens. So, till there is a practitioner, till there is a meditator, till there is a Kriya Yoga expert, or till there is any doer of anything, the subject object split remains. And the subject object split is separation. How to hold on, I am always. I am is your substratum. It is the groundless ground of experiential awareness. There is no need to hold on to I am. In fact, trying to hold on to I am will actually move you away from I am. I am is your fundamental nature, is your basic, peaceful, your existence, your amness. It is your very nature. If your mind is silent enough, there will be a knowing, pure knowing. But till the mind asks, how do I hold on? It will not happen. So I would say just relax and go about your daily living. Do the things you like. And when you're not worried about that, then it'll happen. Okay, there is another question. What makes us forget asking, who is this happening to? Because ease in being has been suggested to come from this simple turning back. Does it require more of Shravan and Manan? No, it does not require more of Shravan and Manan. In fact, now Shravan, which refers to listening, and Manan is contemplation. But ultimately, it is nididhyasana, okay, which is like deep meditation, which is living the message, or let's say living the reality, living the truth. So it is not that by doing it more you're going to get it. It is like surrendering to it. So if it happens, let it happen, and if it doesn't happen, also respect that. Also allow that to happen. That brings in the surrender. But when we get caught up, we immediately judge ourselves. We say, oh, look, I got caught up in this mental game. And we somehow evaluate it as our failure. Sometimes mind gets entangled. There are negative thoughts, and we get caught up in that. And then we say that, oh, I have failed in my spiritual path. And the more I get entangled, the more I believe in this failure, I'm still just, sticking to my illusory self, the small self. So, when one is kind to oneself, one would say it is fine. It is okay. If that happened, that is okay. So forgetting it also, let me put it this way. Your remembrance of your nature, of your true nature, I am, the beingness, happens through the grace of God, and forgetting it also happens through the grace of God. And both of these are okay. So do the Shravan and do the Manan when it is required for you, when you think you should do it. And let it happen organically. Don't try to force the understanding. After a turmoil of thoughts and emotions, it feels very peaceful, and time and again this happens and back to normal. Yes, yes. It is like waves in the sea, you know. The the wave of emotion may ride high. We may experience high anxiety, high sadness, or a bout of anger, but it all eventually subsides to the surface after a while. No storm can last. No storm has the capacity to last forever. It eventually subsides to back into the ocean, and the ocean is peace, it is bliss, which is our very nature. How long does it goes? Now it is, I think it is different for different people. For some people, the turmoil, the emotional turmoil goes longer, and I hope that's what you're asking. Whereas for others, it may be short, but you see, there's no freedom from that. The turmoil, emotional turmoil, the pain and pleasure cycle will happen. This is what Nisargadatta Maharaj says, that pain is the background of every pleasure. And in life, the moments of pain are actually more than the moments of pleasure. That is also true. So, acceptance of the cycle actually frees us from the cycle. It is only when we cling to one side, when we say we want pleasure but we don't want pain. Or we sometimes cling on to pain also. We say that, oh, my life is so painful, look at me, I am so miserable. This is not working out for me, that is not working out for me. Then we cling on to pain. And that is the thing. That is what causes suffering. That's why Nisargadatta Maharaj says that the river of my life flows between between the banks of pain and pleasure, but I cling to none. How to understand mind? Well, who wants to understand mind? That's the question. Just examine that. Who is trying to understand the mind? When the mind stops, identification is suspended. The organism falls back into its natural rhythm, and it takes a while to come back to the conceptual world. How wonderful. Of course, you see, the body mind organism by default is very intelligent and very peaceful. It is programmed in such a way that it knows how to react to a given situation. It will react according to its programming, right? And programming is God's will, because we do not choose our life circumstances. So if, let's say, somebody who is born in a rough and tough environment will be more reactive, and somebody who's not born in a rough and tough environment, or let's say somebody who's been born in a very mellow household, may have a different trait, may have completely the opposite trait. But the organism by nature is very intelligent. But what happens is that when the ego mind comes into the picture and takes ownership of the mind body organism, it starts dictating the life should be like this, it should not be like that. One should live like this, one should live like that. And there are a lot of sermons and a lot of teachings that tell you how to live your life, how to do this thing, that thing, right? But you see, until and unless you use your own mind to evaluate what is right and what is wrong for you, you are not going to get any peace. And your right and wrong will never be another person's right and wrong. There is no one way to life. There are different perspectives to life, but yes, the existence is the common factor for all of us. Yes, that's a wonderful share. Thank you. Okay. But failure has been bringing more of self pity and sometimes intellectual vanity, and it has become a cycle. There isn't enough confidence to move towards surrender. Now, you see, this very realization is grace of God, because you are able to see it. You are able to see this fact that this is happening. Although you are calling it failure, I think it is your success. It is the biggest success, because a lot of people are not even aware of this fact that it is happening to them. So I won't call this your failure. This is your biggest success. That you can see that how certain events in your life are causing self-pity and this intellectual vanity, where the mind is coming up with defenses, and it has become a cycle. You have identified the cycle. That is enough. At some point, if it is the will of God, it will even drop. Or even if it does not drop, maybe your relationship with the cycle may change. Maybe you may accept it and you may say, okay, if it is there, it is there. What's the big deal? We don't have to become a perfect human being, because nature is not perfect. And the beauty of nature is in its imperfections, not in its perfection. The surrender will happen on its own. There is no way to surrender. There is no method or trick or technique to surrender. All the masters are doing are trying to point you to the source of everything, to the source of your I, aham. And that is where their job is done. After that, it is your destiny and the will of God. What is the actual meaning of surrendering? What about responsibilities? Responsibilities towards whom? Responsibilities are fixated to us, they are thrusted upon us by society. God did not send you with a list of responsibilities. It was people, it was your family, your friends, your education system, your environment, the mohalla and the neighborhood that you lived in. Those are the people who thrusted these responsibilities on you. And the thing is, we never even question them. We just assume they are right. And then that becomes our foundation. And from that, we start evaluating. So Jiddu Krishnamurti would say, live with a sense of responsibility, not responsibility towards the others. Live with a sense of responsibility. That means you go within and examine. And when you do that, you will see that surrender is not an act of the ego. Surrendering is a happening. Surrendering, now I'll put it in Ramesh Balsekar's word, which was beautiful. He says that ego, the ego mind, once it realizes that it is not the doer of its actions, it questions, it says, if I am not the doer of my actions, then who is this me? That is the last question. There is no answer to that question. That is when everything drops, when the doership drops. Along with the doership drops the sense of separate existence. That is surrender. I think if we human beings just be responsible towards ourselves, a lot of our problems will be resolved. The thing is that the fundamental responsibility of knowing oneself is what we avoid the most. And we try to fixate responsibilities on others, for others. We say, oh, I am responsible for my wife, I am responsible for my parents, I am responsible for my children, I am responsible for my projects, my work, my this and that, but what about responsibility towards me, towards myself? That is where we need to, if we can go that way, then a lot of clarity comes in. Okay, so someone here says that I am the first visitor. What are you talking about, and can you please explain it to me? We are just having a casual conversation, and we are just exploring life. We are not here to talk about philosophy or entertainment. We are just trying to examine the nature, our true nature, what our nature is. I won't even say true nature, I will say what our nature is, simply. That's all. What are the traps and misconception about awakening, about spirituality? One about trap, or call it misconception, about awakening is the notion that it is the individual that awakens, that it is the person that awakens. Awakening is impersonal. It is not that when a human being awakens, they all of a sudden become very nice, very cooperative. I mean, I don't consider myself awakened or enlightened in any way. And trust me, I can be quite a nuisance maker. So, but here's the thing, I'm aware about this conditioning of mine, and I'm quite okay with it. So, if I'm like that, I will tell others that this is how I'm going to be. And after that, you can choose either to be with me or not to be with me. But yes, I can be a nuisance maker if I want to. So it is not that spiritual people or awakened people are good people, quote unquote good people. That is the misconception. If you see a lot of gurus, you will see a lot of anger in them sometimes. A lot of masters, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. Yes, that happens. But here's the thing, everything with them is momentary. They change from moment to moment. So their organism just operates spontaneously. So they may be angry in one moment, but in the next moment they may laugh. That is what used to happen with Nisargadatta Maharaj. In one moment he would be absolutely in high temper, and the next moment he would laugh the loudest. I think there was one time in a satsang, somebody asked a question to Nisargadatta Maharaj, and Nisargadatta Maharaj got fumed, immediately angry, and he said, "You have been coming to satsang for so many years, how you ask such a stupid question?" And the man replied, "If I am stupid, that is how God made me." And Nisargadatta Maharaj's laughter was the loudest. So this quality of being in the moment and living life moment to moment without worrying about future or without remaining in the dead past, this indicates peaceful living in the now. This is what living in the now is. That the actions are not motivated by future or past, they are simply spontaneous. But somehow we have this idea that spiritual people are very sorted and they have all the answers, and actually spiritual people have no answers. They are not even interested in answering the questions. They are here to actually just entertain you. And we are all, I mean, I don't consider myself spiritual, but yes, I am an entertainer too. So just like in the movie Gladiator, the actor says, "Are you not entertained?" Okay. Okay, we'll take up last question now. And it says, my mind constantly thinks what people will think, say, whenever I do something or don't. Now, this generally happens when one is identified with an image. When you are identified with an image, that when you say that I am so and so, I am my profession, okay, I am a father, I'm a son, I'm a parent, I am this, I'm that, my profession is this, I belong to this region, religion, caste, sect, tribe. All these identifications give rise to an image. And when we are identified with that image, we basically, all our actions are filtered through that image, are dictated through that image. So the mind constantly becomes vigilant. It says that, oh, let's say I belong to a particular religion, then I must be very careful what I speak about my religion or the other religion. And it becomes conscious that, if I say something which does not sit well with the others, people may attack me, people may try to, poke this image of mine. So in that case, one needs to examine that what are these bondages, what are these threads which are causing these identification, which is building up these images. Okay, so here someone shares, I went into a famous heritage temple and the guard there insisted I put a tilak so that it will vanquish my ego. Does being around a temple make you a sage? I don't know, yaar. I'll try that sometimes, but I don't think. Now I'm quite okay with that. If people want to put tilak or something, I do not refuse them. And the guards generally at the temples or the gurdwaras or any other place, they're old fellows, and sometimes I like to humor them too. And of course, I do follow the conventional. Wherever I am, I do like to follow. I think this with the sage, the thing is that the sage may not object at all, irrespective of what his organism believes is true or not. Like in the case of Ramana Maharishi, he would say that if you take me to be as your guru, then that's you. I'm neither going to reject it nor going to accept it. So he saw people's conditioning and he knew that he's powerless against changing their conditioning. Is if someone wants to see him as God, they will see him as God. And he says that I do not, neither do I endorse that nor do I reject that. And that's a wonderful way to live in the world, I believe. Because you're not thrusting your views onto other people, neither you're telling them what to do or not to do. So it's all good. Okay, thank you all so much, and I wish you all peace and happiness and harmony in your lives. It was wonderful to be with you, and we will meet again soon. Take care. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let there be peace, peace, peace.